Good morning, Jan. It's nice to have you here with us. Please tell us who you are and what you do at CRI.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm the portfolio manager for disease management at CRI. So basically all the disease research is under my management with a group of researchers under me. But my own focus area in this specific situation is soil-borne diseases of citrus. So that's where the Phytophthora, the root rot, and the brown rot come in. So with the flooding now, of course, that is one of the major things that needs to be addressed, major risks for growers. So that's why I was involved in compiling this cutting edge along with a whole bunch of other colleagues.
So when you say flooding, let's just date this quickly. Today is the 22nd of May, 2026. Last week, on the 11th of May, the Western Cape had one of the biggest storms and flooding it has probably seen in recent memory. Earlier this year, the Limpopo region also had one of the biggest flooding things. So.
but Dewald, actually even the Gamtoos River area.
I was about to say that as well.
Gamtoos was I would say about the same time or just the week before.
A week earlier. It was earlier in May, and it was like that area got hit, and a week later the Western Cape.
Yes. So in the industry, the devastation is quite widespread in those two production areas. I mean, the pictures I've seen since then, this week, last week, it really shows a lot of problems in orchards. Orchards really badly affected. Fruit quality, yeah.
Yes, it's pretty hectic. But now what has also come up now is that what you mentioned earlier about the floods in Limpopo area, that was in January.
Yeah,
so you can have flooding.
February.
You can have flooding at different times of year, and I mean, I would imagine that has completely different results.
Yeah, look, the cutting edge we did in February in reaction to the flooding in the Limpopo area was the focus was different. At that stage, it was very much also Phytophthora, but more root rot because and brown rot, but also nutrition, fungicide sprays that might not have been done yet, that needed to be done. So the focus was a bit different from this one. I mean, here we're now
in season.
In season, people want to pick.
That was one of my questions I had by myself, is that what's the difference between having a flood in like January before the fruit is ripe versus now that's in season?
Look, Dewald, I think the effect on the tree is the same. What you get with flooding, and not even flooding, just general wet conditions. Because some of the areas, although there wasn't flooding, the orchards are wet, the soil is wet, it's saturated. So what you get now in the soil is you get low oxygen levels, high carbon dioxide levels. The tree basically in terms of physiology stands still. Nothing happens. So what you can get is trees starting to yellow, they wilt, they drop fruit. So that will happen regardless of when the actual flood happens. In the Limpopo there was a bit of that as well, but luckily because it was early in the year, the orchards dried off quite quickly.
Okay. So that's anaerobic situation in the soil.
In the soil.
So there's
you actually get, and that's where the Phytophthora danger comes in, is that the root starts to die, and that is perfect conditions for Phytophthora. So that's why we tell growers, don't try, where there's still water in your orchard, drain it as quickly as possible. Get it out of the orchard so that you can just get the soil to dry. And in that action, as far as possible, don't go into the orchard and drive in the orchard, because then you get more and more soil compaction. It's just more root damage. And apart from the Phytophthora, it just causes a lot of physiological damage still also to the tree that will have long-term effects.
I think for the very few people in the industry that's not aware, if you look at soil, you don't think that oxygen is needed there because it's most closed. So
yeah.
And then why What is Phytophthora? Is Phytophthora fungus? Is it a
It's
hoja? Is it a
well, if I don't want to get too technical,
Yes, yes.
Phytophthora is actually not a fungus, as we will talk about a fungus. It's more closely related to the slime molds, actually. So it's more a mold than a fungus.
Okay.
And it does form spores that can swim. So it's got little tails and it can swim, and that's why in waterlogged conditions it moves so easily, and it gets attracted to the roots, to the damaged roots especially, through what they exude. So there's sugars and other metabolites that the roots give off, and these little spores then is attracted by that, and that's then how the Phytophthora infection of the root starts.
So if you had like a little bit of Phytophthora in an orchard, maybe in one corner, that could actually, if the whole orchard's now soaked, it could actually spread to the
Yes.
rest of it.
Yes, and what we also have is that a lot of our water sources, especially the rivers, does have Phytophthora in it, and it's just basically because it's runoff water out of orchards that goes into the river, and so it just carries the Phytophthora. So maybe you didn't have a Phytophthora problem, but now after the flood, you do.
Yes,
because it was
flushed,
carried. It
flushed
was
from 20, 30 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Now it's in your.
exactly.
Okay, so other than drainage and not driving through there, what else can growers do?
Well, Louise, I think at this stage, you need to sort of wait a little bit.
Yes. Patience, add patience into the bucket.
Wait for the soil moisture to sort of return to, I think we mentioned in the cutting edge, 50%.
Okay.
So in our field test, where you actually make a little sausage out of it's a 3 out of 5 rating. So
Okay.
that's what Koenraad always
Yes.
teaches the growers. Then from there, I think from a disease perspective, its sanitation is critical. Take out
Okay.
the rotten fruit. Fallen rotten fruit that's rotten on the tree, which is happening, take that out, and then from there you start looking at other measures.
Even if it doesn't look rotten yet,
That's the difficult thing.
especially the fallen fruit.
The fallen fruit won't, but there's some extreme cases where you actually have fruit rotting on the tree.
Wow.
So that fruit needs to come out.
Yes.
Then you can pick whatever is left over, I would say, but still, that is not guaranteed that fruit would be 100% sound, unfortunately. There's
Because
still
there's
a
spores,
risk.
and the spores
There's
that was
still a risk of damage that we can't see. There's latent infections on the fruit. So pre-sorting before going into the pack house is really critical.
And you mentioned fallen fruit. If the fruit is dropped on the ground, what is the situation there?
No, pick it up, get it out. It's a source. It's a source of further infections of a whole lot of the post-harvest, like sour rot and blue mold and brown rot might even also play a role. Yeah.
So if you don't do this, okay, you need to remove all rotten fruit because spores and stuff will spread. But that also means that you'll need to step up your packhouse sanitation as well.
Yes. Yes.
Just for that added security.
I would say your pre-pack house sorting is critical, like we said in the cutting edge. Something else that we thought about afterwards, is a good pre-pack house drench that we did say and that is the pre-pack house drench is really just to sort of, if there's any fungi on the fruit surface or any infected wounds, small wounds on the fruit, just to combat that and give you some control of those latent infections or maybe early stage infections.
Okay.
We do recommend that people wilt their fruit a little bit before, say for 12 hours. So what our recommendation would be is to first drench, then wilt your fruit, and then take it to the pack house. But try and get it done, as soon as possible. The wilting is just to sort of reduce the oleocelosis. So oleocelosis is basically where, because of the turgidity in the fruit, the oil cells burst.
Okay.
And then it causes black spots on the fruit. But then sanitation in the pack house, yes, critical. Changing of your dumping bath and your fungicide bath maybe a bit more regular than what you would normally do, because spores do build up in these baths.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it's
And as soon as those chemical levels are just slightly out of balance, it's not effective anymore.
yeah, but also it becomes dirty because of, and that's where the pre-sorting is also important. You don't want a visibly rotten fruit with spores
Definitely.
going into the pack house, because it carries a lot of stuff with it, and that makes the solutions in the pack house just dirty.
It's like a little spore bomb that
It
you're
is.
sending into the pack house.
It is. So I think, where you take fruit into the pack house, it really needs to be your best quality fruit that you've got.
Okay, so according to the cutting edge, there's a couple of things that farmers should do and shouldn't do. That, and one of the questions we've got is, when should growers consider phosphonate applications? Did I say that correct?
Yeah.
And how should they decide between foliar application and trunk paint application?
Okay.
And then also, what special caution is needed with foliar phosphonate applications on soft citrus?
Okay. So first of all, when to do the phosphonates? I think as soon as you can safely go into an orchard without doing, like we said, compaction and other damage, then you can start thinking about doing a phosphonate application. It's also at that stage that the stress levels in the trees are reduced. Because otherwise, if you spray phosphonates on stressed trees, you burn the tree, and you will burn the fruit. Fruit will drop, leaves will drop, so you actually cause more damage. Then the type of application, I would say foliar at this stage, because you want to protect your fruit and your roots against Phytophthora, and for that, foliar applications is much better. Later in spring, if you want to do your standard Phytophthora application and management program, then you can again decide a trunk paint or a foliar spray. The problem is with a trunk paint, it only gives you root rot control.
Okay.
So if there's orchards that's already picked and there's no more fruit that's got a brown rot risk, then I would say, if you can and if you want to, do a trunk paint. But at this stage, if you want to do root rot and brown rot, foliar spray.
Okay.
And then on the soft citrus, especially after color break, they are quite sensitive to the rinds, and I think under the flooding conditions now they're even more so. Work that we did at CRI did show that phosphonates can burn fruit once they passed color break, even under normal circumstances. So I think you really need to be careful on applying phosphonates on soft citrus, things like Nadorcots. Yeah.
And phosphonate is is obviously a chemical that targets Phytophthora, and it works systemically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
it's actually one of the wonderful fungicides, because it gets translocated up and downward
okay.
in the tree.
Okay.
So that's why it will move into the fruit, but it will also move into the roots.
A question that is there an MRL risk with phosphonate?
No, I don't think so. The MRL allowed in South Africa on fruit is 50 ppm, and in the EU market it's 75. So for fruit going into the EU, it shouldn't be a problem.
I've got a slightly off-topic question for you, but I think it relates. Okay, we're talking about flooding, we're talking about water, very wet conditions around the roots. Are there some rootstocks that are more resistant to Phytophthora than others? Is this something that one should
Yes,
look
there
into
are.
in areas that are prone to flooding?
Well, yes, there are. Many years ago, most of our industry was based on rough lemon rootstock, and it was because of Phytophthora largely that they moved over to the trifoliate rootstocks. So the trifoliate rootstocks does have more tolerance to Phytophthora and not resistance. But the problem is when you get a stress situation like this that we're currently in, that tolerance doesn't help much.
You can't do much about the anaerobic conditions.
So you'll still get root damage just from the anaerobic conditions. So rootstocks in this case,
it's not really going to make a difference.
It's not really going to make a difference.
Okay. So one thing that CRI quite they actively advocate to growers, and we've done quite a few of the productions, is to keep skirts on the trees,
Yes.
so that you don't have fruit normally touching the
No.
ground anyway.
Yes.
Because then the chance of it picking up spores is also big. Now, my practical thinking now is obviously water went through orchards, so even if your skirts was normal, fruit might have touched that
Yes.
muddy water
Yeah.
somewhere
And-
along the
and-
line.
And that is the fruit that's also still now at risk. You know,
Yes.
and some growers did report that they could actually see where the water level was. Fruit below that or just touching that has got brown rot and other post-harvest problems, and they're dropping. Whereas fruit higher up is in a better condition. So that is, you know, something to look out for is to, skirting is always a good practice, I would
Yes.
say, especially on your soft citrus, because they are prone to heavy loads, heavy yields, and then they bend over and they touch the floor. So, yeah.
So fruit that came into contact with the flood water should probably be avoided
Yes.
to be picked at all.
Yeah, that's sanitation fruit, I think.
Can we say that growers should maybe just trim out those branches or not?
Well, yes, in future definitely, but I think at this stage, you know, the horse is bolted,
Yeah.
and that fruit is already compromised. So, just pick them and treat them as sanitation fruit, because they will have latent infections of all sorts of post-harvest
Correct.
pathogens. So,
Correct. Interesting. Okay, one of the questions here is, how full should bulk bins be after these conditions, and why does bin handling become more important with stressed fruit? And there's a follow-up question that connects to that. What should packhouses watch out for when handling stressed fruit from flooded orchards, especially regarding brushing, long stems, degreening, and cooling?
yeah, I think, you know, taking it from the orchard in a bulk bin, we must remember that this fruit is now stressed. It's sensitive.
Are you talking about picking bins, the
picking bins,
big plastic bins? Okay.
Big plastic picking bins. The fruit is sensitive. They're more sensitive than normal. So don't overfill your bulk bins, because that will just cause more bumping and bruising of fruit, more oleo, and wounding. And that's where the long stems also come in. You know, long stems that
Which
make
Makes
holes.
sense.
Which is a no-no in any way. They
Yes.
should be
Yeah,
clipped
that
correctly.
is in any case not a good practice to have long stems. Yeah, and then, you know, in the pack house, just sanitation. Yeah.
Well, that's a given, but I think
Yeah.
people often overlook, and I'll change the
And-
water
Yeah.
after lunch or something
Yes,
like that.
Yes, and also in the pack house, you know, look at where your fruit drops, that it's not excessive drops. Maybe think of making, you know, some temporary measures maybe
Yeah,
to soften those drops.
if you talk about drops, those are the drops on the pack line, on the
Yes.
conveyors.
Yeah.
We did a very nice video with Jan Landman where he
Yes.
explains all those injury points in a pack house.
Yeah.
So now,
So those are the things that now you need to really focus on,
yeah,
because you don't want a already sensitive fruit becoming damaged in the pack house.
and the thing is, you won't see it in the pack house. That will come out once it lands in the market.
Yes.
So, just to understand what you mean by stressed, okay, this has happened in the orchard, it's been flooded. So now the fruit is almost super turgid with
Yes.
water. So now your skin is...
And for the Afrikaans people, turgid beteken hy styf.
Yeah. It's
it's
turgid.
solid.
Okay,
Yeah.
so in other words, every little cell in particularly in the rind, if you bump it a little bit hard, it has the danger of exploding, of
Yes.
breaking,
Yes.
and that's where the oleo comes in.
Yes.
Internally, is
You,
there any
Louise, internally, internal quality is really not my,
No, it's
my
not your-
area
but-
of
okay.
expertise.
But the biggest problem is the oleo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and the rind. You know, rind damage.
Yes,
Rind
okay.
there's all sorts of, and that's Paul Cronje's area of expertise. But you really need to look after your fruit now,
Okay.
so that you have good quality rinds going forward.
Wow.
Well, no.
Apart from wishing all the growers the best for this tough season, is there any other message you've got for them?
Sure. It's not an easy message, but I think one needs to realize that you need to be a little bit patient before going into your orchards, because you can actually do more damage than good. wait for the soil to dry out a little bit before you start, and you give your trees time to recover. And then just follow the guidelines that we put out in the, and handle your fruit carefully. Do good sanitation. That's basically what you need to do in the orchard and in the pack house. Make sure that the pack house handles you. The fruit that you do send to the pack house must be handled quite carefully, and do your pre-pack house drenches. Even if it's on the farm, make sure that you do it and that you do it correctly.
Okay. An offshoot thought that came to me now, where these waterlogged orchards are so bad, and you shouldn't drive in them, as you just said. Should growers look at maybe spraying with drones, where they have to put a chemical for something down?
The thing is, Dewald, the coverage we need now would not be sufficient with drones.
Okay.
So the deposition on the fruit, where you actually need complete coverage of the fruit, will not be good. And then, of course, you must now go back to those orchards in spring again, because you might not see Phytophthora root rot popping out now.
Yes.
But in next spring, you might see trees all of a sudden starting to yellow, show some wilting. And then you need to follow a normal Phytophthora root rot management program. And we'll probably towards spring just put out another cutting edge to sort of make people alert of what to look out for now. Because this is it's not only a now problem. It is things that will affect.
It's a whole year problem, actually.
Yeah. So it could be that we could see tree damage and tree deaths even in longer term. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Well, thank you.
Jan, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's a somber message, but thank you for the efforts you guys are doing. It's
Yes. And if anybody's got any questions, they're welcome to contact me or any of the colleagues that's listed on the cutting edge. We're more than happy to help.
Jan, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
all the best for the season.
Thanks.